Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of 100 Words or Less, the podcast. I am your host, Ray Harkins. We are sitting here at episode number 50 with Jonah Ray, stand-up comedian and also co-host of the Nerdist podcast, one of the most popular podcasts on this planet. More on him in a minute. Let's get some business out of the way. Propertyofzach.com. If you are not visiting there, you should be. Go check out the website. They will give you the latest and greatest in what's happening in independent music. It can show you what's tours are coming up and, a bunch of different stuff. We love them as our partners. Go visit the website. I also want you, if you would be so kind, drop a review of the show or simply just click on how many stars you like this show on iTunes. So go there, write a few sentences. You people that have done that already, I can't thank you enough. It just makes us look better in the podcast world when people trip onto the show and are like, oh, okay, it has a lot of reviews. That must mean people like it. So do that. And I've been noticing the amount of international love is awesome. People from Australia, UK, like you obviously have such a closed view of the world when I'm doing this in my office. And it's like, oh, I don't think that anybody across the world is going to download this and care about it. But they do, and that's awesome. And thank you for listening. One other random thing, and I promise for those of you that listen regularly, this will be the last time I bother you about it. There's a website called the avclub.com. They do a weekly roundup of podcasts. And they do a segment that's called New to Us, which is basically they pick a show out of the blue and feature it. And then that way they spread awareness of that particular show. And they also give not a nice review, but just basically a description of what the show is. And I'm just obsessed with that idea. I want this show to be featured on there. So in order for that to happen, email podmass, M-A-S-S, at avclub.com. And that way, if a few of you hit them up, then they might check it out, and that's all I can really ask for. If you do that, I will be forever grateful. Thank you. I realize I'm kind of demanding in these things, like, hey, do this, do that. But you just got to ask. You got to put it out there, because sometimes people do, and other times people don't. I do probably, like 60% of the things that people ask of me, and the other 40%, falls by the wayside. So yeah, Jonah Ray, he is the guest. I've just heard him on the Nerdist podcast talk about references to him being in a punk band and, him being straight edge at one point. And so there was these things that just like, I don't know, man, like, I feel like I need to talk to this dude. So obviously knowing no way to really contact him, hit him up on Twitter. This was one of the first people that I hit up on Twitter that, I had no relation to, and they responded. So I basically said, Jonah, you want to come on this podcast? And I mean, for a person like him who is completely aware of podcasts and probably does interviews on like 9 million different ones, why would he care about this one? But obviously I put it in the context where it was like, oh, this seems interesting. He hit me back and said, sure, let's do this. And he was kind enough to open his house to me one afternoon. So I went up there to Los Angeles and we hung out in his living room and basically just talked for about an hour. It was really interesting to get to know him. Great dude. Not like I expected anything different, but it was just great to be able to speak to someone who was raised from our scene, but is doing something completely different, but still has those ties and those relations and that sort of mentality to the whole DIY independent culture nature that a lot of us, it's meaningful to. That was great. One last thing before we dive into the actual interview. My attention span is, I don't know if anybody else is noticing. I feel it's getting worse and worse as time goes on. And maybe that's just a symptom of getting older. And maybe that's just like so many fucking distractions that we have in our life. But I legitimately, when I'm watching a movie, not in the movie theater, but if I'm doing things at home, if I'm watching a movie at home, television, whatever the case may be, I have to put away my iPad, my iPhone, all these other things that can distract us from actually just sitting down and watching. And there are times where it's like, even if it's a half an hour program, there's times where I just look over my phone and it's like, no, fucking put it away. Just chill out. Focus on the moment. I'm sure that other people are feeling this way as well, but it's just so weird because, I was obviously living in a time where cell phones weren't as pervasive as they are. And I remember that I was definitely an early adopter when it comes to that, because I remember my mom being like, oh yeah, you're driving on your own. You need a cell phone in case of emergencies, which turned into me just making phone calls to friends on it. So cell phones have existed in my life for a long time, but I feel like it's a sacrifice for me being able to actually sit down and pay attention to something. Email me if you have a similar experience. Twitter, Facebook, whatever you want to do, but I just want to put it out there. Attention span is dwindling. It's not for this show. This is the 50th episode. I'm continuing. This is awesome. We are 2 episodes away from being at the year mark. 52 weeks. That's a long time. Anyways, here's Jonah. He's awesome. You're going to learn a lot. I promise. I get it. Like, I'm definitely not one of those straight edge kids that's just like, oh, you're one of those guys. Like, you gave up on it. It's like, life. Like, I get it.
It's funny because there's a really awesome guy that hangs out the Meltdown show that I do every week.
Oh, sure.
And it's this hardcore kid who's a great photographer and just comes every week and takes pictures and portraits of the comedians.
Oh, that's awesome.
And like, he's just like straight edge hardcore kid, real into PMA, like real into positivity, really.
Right.
And like, it's funny because I guess I played on my podcast, Jonah Radio, I played Title Fight.
Okay, yeah.
And for me, I'm like, oh man, this sounds like fucking hot music.
Yeah, this sounds like everything that was happening in the mid-90s.
Yeah, exactly, which is most things coming out right now.
Exactly.
But like, I was like, oh, this is great, and I played it, and then like, I think it was Title Fight, but it was some band, and then like, he came up to me this week, he's like, oh, hey, and he's a younger guy.
Yeah.
Of course. He's like, hey, I noticed you played, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, it's good. So it's a cool record. Because, we're like around the same age. So it's like, you get to a point where you're like, yeah, it's great.
Right.
What, you don't think about anything more of like the stuff. And then like,
sure.
And then he's like, I don't know, man. At a show, my friends played with them. They weren't. I was like, oh, dude, you got to understand. I'm 30. I don't care about your scene politics.
I have not deep dove into this where it's just like, all right, where does each individual member come from?
Yeah.
What is their lineage? Like, I just like the record.
Yeah, exactly. And like, that's a real young way to think. And like,
it totally is.
And that's a thing that like takes a while to get out of. And that's a weird thing about punk and hardcore is that like you're thinking about more than the music. And there is something to take from music, like lyrics and politics and stuff like that. And that's great, and that guided both of our lives, I'm sure.
Totally.
When you learn to stop listening to One Life Crew because you find out they're racist assholes. Like you go, oh, now I can't listen to this record I liked.
I like the fact that you use One Life Crew as an example because totally. Like there are bands where it's just like, oh wait, this could be considered questionable.
Yeah, and like no one knew really. There was questions, and then the second record came out, which was just pictures of border patrolmen beating up.
Was it American Justice?
Yeah, probably.
Where it was like, holy shit, I can't even believe this.
Yeah, everyone, like there was, and like for like a passive listener like me, I was like, oh, new One Life Crew. Oh boy!
Yeah. Whoa!
Yeah.
I was kind of just into this whole Cleveland hardcore scene. I didn't know what you guys were like actually trying to get across.
Yeah.
I don't support that at all.
Well, there's like there's that first like Screwdriver record,
of course,
and like it's great pop punk, like great,
totally.
Like they could have been up there with the Buzzcocks.
Yep, totally.
And then there's this other stuff started coming out, and like this is like. We weren't around during that time.
Right.
But you get it and you're like, this is great. And then the guy's like, I don't know. And then you listen to it like, yo, you're not supposed to get this.
Of course.
Yeah. And I worked at a record store in Venice Beach. And every once in a while, you get some guys around there coming in. It's like, and they would always be kind of like a little knowing of. They go,
yep.
You got any screwdriver? And I would be like, no. And they're like, it's like, sometimes they would be like, I got it.
Right.
Other times it'd be like, why not?
Dude, I'm so glad that you had. I had the same exact experience because I worked at a store like in Orange County in like Huntington Beach area, Bionic Records.
Oh, Bionic Records.
Yeah. I worked for like 2 of those stores because there was 3 at one time.
Yeah.
Obviously, Huntington Beach is a very large contingent of white
supremacists.
Huge and so we would either get the calls or the dudes exactly what you're saying, where it was just like, y'all got any screwdriver? And it was just like, well, first of all, like the whole y'all thing where it's like, we're in Huntington.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah. And plus, it's like sometimes like that one, the aggressive, like they're putting you on. They know exactly what they're doing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Are you one of us?
Exactly.
Are you cool?
Oh,
it's like no. My favorite thing was that there was one store in Orange County that we referenced people to. It was this, I think it was called Underdog Records in Laguna Beach on PCH. I'd only went in there once or twice.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
A friend of mine worked there, and he had best story where basically he said that they had what they call the white box. They would make such a markup on it.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
They'd be selling CDs for like $30.
It's not the black market; it's the white market.
Totally, totally. They could sell it at a premium because they knew. Was this
the store that had it below the counter,
yes.
and they would bring it? I've heard about this store.
Yes,
I've heard about that,
and it was incredible because they were a punk store, so it's like they got it, but they were just like, all right, well, we know what we're doing here, like, yeah. But what they would do is they would put gay porn in between some of it. And so it's like, you got dudes fucking flipping through. They have to keep a straight face because they're like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, oh, it was incredible. And I was just like, I'd never witnessed it in person. My friend who worked there said he's like, it was probably one of the best things I've ever witnessed.
That makes it worth it.
And I'm like, yeah, like, I would love to have seen all of that because that would be incredible.
That would be incredible. Like, they laugh at those guys. And then they profit off of their hate money.
Totally. And then they're like, whatever, I'll still get the Blue Eyed Devil CD. Yeah. Like, yeah, it's just like, that experience is such a distinctly unique independent record store thing.
Yeah, it really is.
You couldn't talk to anybody else and be like, I don't know what you're, like, I mean, I see what you're talking about if you explain everything, but...
Yeah, exactly. You have to give so much context. And then you have to, like, give, like, certain kind of history of punk rock every once in a while. It's like, oh, see, that's funny because, like... Brett Gurewitz wasn't always... He was so in and out of bad religion. So, like, you know...
They're just like, I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah, then you turn into one of those storytellers where it's like, well, one time I was hanging out with my friend. Well, he wasn't really my friend. He was like a friend of a friend. It's like he was like... It was like my friend who was kind of like my brother, but it's like they went on vacation. You know, it's that guy that has to keep on backing it up. Like, when High Fidelity came out, there was people, like, coming to those stores to kind of try and witness...
Totally. Experience that. Yeah, for sure. It's like, is this really how it is?
Yeah, exactly. The store in Venice Beach, Benway Records, great store.
I'd never been there, no.
It was really good, but, you know, because of its location, it couldn't be a completely indie rock store. And
of
plus,
course.
The time I started working there was at the time when everything started collapsing.
Yeah. Right. When record stores weren't as quote-unquote relevant anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, did you ever get this? The guys coming in, looking at, like, the new releases... And then go on, okay, cool, I know what to download now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like, why would you even say that out loud to me? I need this.
Totally. What, like, because I quit working at the store, like, it was around 2002, 2003.
So you saw the very
like,
kind of, like...
Yeah, totally. Like, I distinctly remember, because Christmas, we always would kill it. And so it was, like, I think 2001 or 2002, where it was, like, the Christmas, like... We didn't do better than we did the previous year, where I was kind of like, oh, and like I went from working at a record store to a record label, so it wasn't like I was like, I'm out of music.
Yeah.
But like, it was just kind of like, oh, this is like an interesting thing, like an interesting sea change.
Yeah.
In a way. The whole like,
which also came out around the same time.
Completely. Nice reference.
Yeah. Sweet reference.
And only music nerds.
Yeah, I know.
The context for the show is like basically just people involved in independent culture, but like it all kind of is rooted from music in some fashion.
Yeah.
Because I feel like honestly, what prompted me to write you and hit you up was the fact I mean I've listened to the Nerdist podcast for over a year or so, and like hearing obviously tell about your experiences. And, mentioning, like, I think it was the Henry Rollins interview. You were a part of that, right?
Yes,
I was that's what I thought. I just want to make sure that, because obviously some of the voices blend into one another. It's like, I think you mentioned Straight Edge, and then obviously, like, your affinity for Black Flag. And then I was just like, this Jonah dude knows what's up. Like, I feel like there's obviously a lot that can be pulled on.
I realize the main audience of Nerdist is not necessarily me, and it's really like it's more people that like Chris and Matt. Like it's more on that side. Sometimes we'll do live shows and we'll do the Q&A section, the Quement section, and then people will say like, well, when did you know you were like a nerd? And I tell people I never felt like that. Like it's like I never felt like. And if I did, I didn't feel like it was a bad thing.
Right.
It's because I was a punk kid.
Right.
And that was the coolest thing.
Right. You were in a secret club. It was somewhat reflected as cool.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and you'd be at school, no glances. You know?
Yeah.
It's like whatever. I don't care about that kid.
Right.
But then you go and you're like this. You're part of a scene.
Yep.
And there's adults. That's a big part of it, because when you're in high school and you're going to these things and you're friends with adults.
Totally.
You're friends with these guys in their 20s and you're talking about music.
Yeah.
And of course, like when you get older, you're like, man, there was a fucking 30-year-old guy just talking to 14-year-old kids.
Right. You're like, there's nothing appropriate about that. If you were just age-wise looking at that, to be like, oh, that's fucked up.
Yeah, exactly. But it was punk, so it was like, I had my friends that we would play in bands. Like
Yeah.
The school would end, we'd go and practice, and we'd get ready for a show on Friday or Saturday night.
Right.
And like, there's a show in Hawaii, show like out on the North Shore,
right.
like out in the boonies. It's like, let's go.
Right.
And then you see a couple other kids that you've never seen before, and
right.
It makes you feel better. And so that's my background. And so when I bring it up or like mention it, like, of course, like the kids that listen to the podcast just go, hipster.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting that's like, you and I are coming from that world, and that's funny.
And there's like, I've come across like a good handful of guys like you, and it's always guys like you.
Right.
Of
course.
Which is by that I mean guys
like me, right.
Yeah. It's always a guy that like looks kind of like me, around the same age.
Exactly.
A lot of the people that listen, and I love like all the Nerdist listeners, like they're just like they're crazy supportive, and they're so nice, and they're all like insanely creative.
Right.
But like I get so excited when I like meet like someone that's like, like, oh man, when you referenced Screeching Weasel, like I fucking lost my shit.
Totally.
And that was a big reason for starting Jonah Radio.
Right.
Which is I was like, what if like I just took that part of the crowd? Like it's like, I have no intention of it being as big as the Nerdist or as big as any other thing. Like it's an excuse. Like, hey, those guys that like it when I bring that stuff up, how about all the time?
Exactly. Yeah, you're able to showcase obviously more of like your personality that's not completely directly related to the Nerdist.
Yeah, exactly. Because my place in the Nerdist is kind of just, sitting back and throwing in some jokes and
of course
being a dick or something like that, which is like a fun way of joking around. That's how me and my friends joke around.
Of course.
But the very sensitive Nerdist listeners sometimes think I'm just too mean. I go, how do you interact with your friends? You just hug and compliment each other all the time?
I know. That's it?
Yeah, exactly. That's what families are for. Friends are fucking so you just go, shut up, you dumb idiot. Oh, fuck you. Oh, hey, now let's go hang out.
Yeah.
Let's go skateboard.
No, for sure. And that's the interesting thing I think about you. That I mean,
tell me the interesting thing.
I will. I mean, just because like I've been to Hawaii a lot.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I mean, just like vacation with family.
You want me to turn the washer off?
No, it's totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Vacation a lot with my family there, and then played a few shows. This was like 2010, I want to say. So this is like obviously long after you were gone. I always get interested in people that have like obviously like the punk and hardcore experience that are obviously from areas that no one's like, oh, fucking Hawaii, like the hotbed of punk. And so it's like, I know that everybody has to do work in order to get into what we got into.
Yeah.
But obviously there's another additional layer of what you were doing because, you're on an island.
Yeah. It's luckily, there was a scene in place already, and it started, there's this kid I know I met out here, and his dad was like in this band called the Squids, and they were like considered the first Hawaii like punk band, like a new wave band.
Okay.
And it's just crazy. Like the scene was in place, you just had to find it.
Right.
Like I guess that's the case for anywhere.
Yeah.
But like when you're a kid, and especially because like not to say that like there was only white kids, there was like all kinds of different people in the punk scene. Right. As a I'm pretty white.
Yeah, you are.
My brother's not. That was the thing, because I was very different from my family. My mom was white, but like she just a white kid, and I felt out of place.
Right.
I was real big, and I was fat, and like just like all that kind of typical stuff that leads you into being disaffected a bit, or being. And then my friend Donald, who was like this only child with really old parents, we started getting into alternative music, and then like he was like, hey, the high school, because we were going to like private schools.
Oh, okay.
Catholic schools, and it was just the worst. And like he's like, hey, public high school in our town, Kalaheo, they're having like a punk show. I was like, a punk show?
Yeah.
Like, who's playing? Is it like he's like, he named some of the bands that's on the flyer. We're like, what? Like how? They're from Hawaii,
right.
And that's, I think it's like probably a similar thing for any any kid coming. Like it's like the click where it's like, oh, it's not all big names in MTV and stuff like that.
Right.
There's just shit happening down the street.
Right.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
There's shit happening down the street.
Right.
And we went
by people that look like me and by people that are roughly the same age as me.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe you've been to like maybe like fucking I don't know, like Mighty Mighty Boss Tones came to town. And
Yeah.
They played a big show.
Right.
That's not the same.
No.
Like we go, and it was just this like we were both like 14 or 13, 12 or 13, 13, 14, something like that. And like it was just like, what is this?
Right.
And Hawaii completely changed for me after that.
Interesting.
And like I would and then I like there was like another friend of mine, my friend Bobby. I was like, you have to come and check this out. And
come into this.
Yeah, and it's like the whole scene in Hawaii is kind of word of mouth.
Right.
There's not many people like trancing, through like it's like, hey, what's this thing going on?
Right.
It's all like people bringing each other in. Like, hey, I noticed you were wearing Screeching Weasel shirt? Have you gone to the, like,
sure.
It's like,
well, and plus you have to look at the fact that, like, obviously the only touring bands you were getting there are bands that are traveling to Japan, are so large, they're so big where it's just like, I mean, like, Mighty Mighty Boss Tones aren't gigantic, but they're big enough to where it's like,
at the time they were pretty big,
right?
Yeah.
And it's like they'll get flown over for that, and it's like, all right, cool.
Yeah, and there was a thing that happened too while I was going to shows, like, all of a sudden a lot less bands because it became cheaper to fly straight from LA to Japan. Like, it used to be a layover.
Of course.
Became cheaper just to fly straight.
Sure.
And so there was a big drop-off.
Big cutoff, yeah.
And, this was, like, pre-internet for, most of us. And you go to the one record store that had, like, a punk section. And, like, then you talk to the record store people there. And then, like, we're going to send a letter to Braid and try and get Braid to come to town. And,
it's amazing.
Or, like,
Or
Sicko. We're going to try, like,
Sure.
And then there was, like, remember Book Your Own Fucking Life?
Of course.
Like, it's like cold calling people to come and play Hawaii.
Yeah.
It's like, you're not going to make money.
That's so you guys were trying to put in the footwork in order to kind of get bands like, hey, there's a scene here and you should come here.
There was always the same pitch from everybody, like, like Sicko, Unwound, fucking Bright Eyes, or Microphones guy came.
Okay,
there was like all these like assorted jelly beans and C&K came, but it's like it's always just the same pitch, which is you're not going to make your money back.
Yeah.
But play a show or two or three.
Right.
Kids will come out because you're a mainland band and it's totally new.
Right.
Like they're gonna come out.
Yeah.
We'll put you up if you want.
Just break even, like at the very best.
Bring some shirts, sell the shirts. You'll sell out. You'll sell your merch, and then we will be there to like show you around the island. You will have a team of personal tour guides.
Right.
And that was always the
pitch.
Thing.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I always talk to people every time someone asks like what was it like to grow up in Hawaii. I said, we'll take the boring town you grew up in, carve it out of the earth, and put it in the middle of the ocean.
Right, and that's exactly the same experience, except
it's like when you're in a small town, you can still get into stuff.
Right.
But like if you really want to see it, you can just drive over to
take a 4-hour drive here.
6-hour drive
exactly.
Here. Or the band just might happen to come through.
Of course.
Yeah. So it was very special. It was very insular, and no bands ever really came out of it.
No.
There was a band called Grapefruit that like. They got signed to Second Guess Records, or some like but people came out of the scene, like the two guys that ended up starting And You Know Us by the 12 Dead.
Right.
They went to my high school, like way before I did, but they graduated from Kalaheo, and then they moved to Austin, and then they started that band, and then there's like guy from J Church, and then there's I think that's it.
Yeah. And then there's a long lineage of people that I'm not aware of.
There was a band, I actually gave them their first actual punk show. They had only played like a school function and a house party for surfers before that. And I gave them their first punk show because they were just kind of like they were neighborhood guys I was friends with, but they were like way into Pennywise and NoFX. They weren't like they're like
right, all the epitaph punk,
yeah, and you're just like, and of course like guys like this is not real punk.
It's okay, it's more commercial, but I mean I can still tolerate it.
Yeah, exactly. Poser punk, bro.
Right.
I gave them their first show at my house. They used to put on punk shows at my house, and they played like fucking covers. They had like 2 songs, and then they played fucking Blink-182. They played Bro Hymn
twice. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Open and close.
Dude, they just played all these covers, and I was like, oh, and I was so embarrassed.
Right.
Because these scene guys from all over the island came to my show.
Judgments.
I was like, oh. And they ended up like they pushed forward. They came like a really huge band in Hawaii because they were playing that surf punk stuff, and that's what makes that huge.
Right.
And then they moved to Huntington Beach.
Okay.
And then they actually did. I guess they did okay for themselves. They were signed to MCA right before MCA just fucking broke.
Oh yeah, just went away. Right.
When it was MCA Drive-Thru.
Oh yeah.
Remember MCA acquired Drive-Thru Records.
Yep.
And then like everyone's like, oh well, shit, like H2O was on a major label.
Exactly.
And then it immediately fell apart. So fast.
Totally.
Yeah. I remember we were getting like the promo disc, and then fucking they're like, oh, these aren't coming out anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And it was just fucking.
I know
crazy.
it's so because no one had any idea what to do with it. They're just like, we need to get on this. Sign bands like this. And it's like, oh wait, well that didn't really work.
Just gone. But they were called National Product.
Oh, 100%. I remember. Danny
Kassler. I went to high school with Danny.
Oh, okay, yeah. Good. I mean, good dude. Like,
he's a good dude.
Super hard worker.
Exactly. Like, and he's always like, every time I talk to him, every couple of years, it's always just like some other crazy huge project. Like right now, he's like co-partners with John Lovitz on John Lovitz's new podcast network.
Yeah.
Like, and then like a couple years before that, it was like, or like, it was like, oh, I'm going on tour with Pennywise. I'm going to sing with Pennywise.
Right.
And I was like, and then a couple years before that, it was like, he's like, oh, I'm fucking selling houses in Orange County.
Right, exactly. I came across him, I reconnected again because he was managing a tattoo artist career that he was dating at the time. It was one of the girls, one of the girls that was on the fucking that LA Ink show.
Oh, jeez.
And it was so random because it was like he was like I was talking to him for like my day job, and it was just so I was like, oh, random, but yeah,
really random.
Same type of guy, that, like where it's just like
he'll
always be doing something.
He was always positive. He was like student body president and stuff like that, and like nicest guys. But like when they started, man, they were the fucking worst band.
Oh yeah.
And I'm gonna say they got this guitar player guy from the North Shore who was in this other really good band, and then like that completely changed him. Like he fucking whipped that band into shape.
Sure.
And but like when they started, like they literally was just like. They never heard FYP, but they had FYP drums.
Right. Just because they had
no,
right, just because they had no, they had no frame of reference.
and they pushed, and they were a band for a really long time.
They were,
and that album that they put out, like wasn't my thing, but like, fuck, if it didn't fucking sound good and was like well composed music.
Yeah, a professional piece of creative enjoyment, so to speak.
Yeah, I probably would have to say that they're the biggest band.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, I can't think of anything that was obviously like influential, like or even not influential, but just like something small where it's just like, oh yeah, like that band, like like fucking Donuts on Victory Records from Sweden, where you're just
where you're
like that band will always exist in my mind as far as just like, hey, let's pick a random band out of the archives where it's like they're
all girl hardcore band?
Vegan and straight edge, like so be it.
Donuts.
So what was your family structure like? Like you said, you had a brother?
Yeah, I have one brother. He was older than me. We were getting into like like with my friend Donald. Like my friend Donald was the reason I got into anything cool. Okay. Pretty much as far as music, like. But we were all getting into like Nirvana and Metallica and Sepultura and stuff like that, and Pantera, and there was a thing that happened where like it's almost like Donald and I wanted to like get into harder stuff, faster stuff.
You're always looking for that.
Yeah, but
especially when you're on that age. Exactly.
But then my brother, who's like 3 years older than me, he fell in with this group and started smoking weed and like metal and like fucking like grunge and stuff like that. Isn't cool. Reggae is cool, and like
right.
Dave Matthews or whatever was going on at the time, and so that was kind of and that made me like really angry. And that's what pushed me into like, well, no, Adam, we hate weed,
right?
Like we hate this. This is what our family does. This is what everyone around us like. We don't like this.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, whatever, and
right. This is what me and my friends do. You do your thing.
Yeah, whatever, kid, and like, and that was like, that was like the kind of like the last time we were brothers, like for up until like the past couple of years. Like he moved to LA now, and I'm getting him jobs on shows and stuff like that as a PA, and like it's like it's really cool to see him come
right.
reconnecting. But it was like a blow to me, like, and it was like a thing that I never really like dealt with. Like I never or realized there was such a thing.
Such a dividing line, right?
Yeah, and like I was like, oh, it got me angry, and I was like, I just don't want to do that stuff. And it really solidified that I didn't want to smoke pot. I didn't want to drink. I didn't want to be like these people. And Donald had just like heard like Minor Threat and like started that DC Discord. So he's like, it was almost like the dark side. He's like, this is what you want,
right? I think this will speak to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do this. He's like, oh, it means you're straight edge. I was like, whoa, that sounds.
Yeah.
So cool.
Awesome.
That sounds so cool. It sounds like, because like all you had before that was like I'm drug free as can be. I'm the smoke free class of 2000. Oh, I'm a Dare Grant.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Worst. Yeah, I've always found like the Red Ribbon Week and everything they did. I mean, obviously kids that were doing drugs would wear those as a joke, and like you would just be like, I remember me calling myself straight edge at the time, and it just being like, fuck you, you're wearing that ironically. Like, come on. And I'm like, I wish the police department would hop on the straight edge bandwagon. I wish they were like something a little harder edge, but I can see where that's like.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I
imagine like, because obviously, like you were saying, you were rebelling against a lot of the culture that was around you, because it's like commonplace knowledge of, all right, you're bored. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to drink? You're going to get stoned?
You're going to surf, which, like, when you're stoned, helps out. It's nice. So fucking just fucking get high and look at the majesty of an island chain in the middle of the biggest ocean of the world. Like, it's like, why wouldn't you want to do that? How fucking zen is that?
Totally.
Like, who wouldn't? And, for me, it was just like, look at that blue fucking wall. The
blue wall. I like that. And so you really were rebelling against that. Like that, it was a political statement of what you were kind of trying to make.
Yeah, and like I got fat. I wasn't born a fat kid. Like I got fat.
Yeah, and you purposely did that.
Yeah. But like who knows? Like I'm going to therapy now, so like I'm realizing like like a lot of stuff is a reaction to like your environment.
Course.
Like it's like I don't want to be like this, you know.
Right.
I don't want to be the guy with their shirts off, running around boogie boarding and surfing, like, you know. I didn't want any of the stuff that was offered to me there.
Right.
And got me like, and just with Donald like getting really into punk and hardcore and straight. And Strange like was just so cool to me. And like,
how old were you when you started calling yourself that?
I must have been 13, 14.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, before I completely understood it, you know.
Oh, dude, I remember distinctly like writing straight edge on my backpack before even understanding that.
Yeah.
And I went to like a private like Lutheran high school, and so there was only like 2 kids that had any idea of what that type of stuff was. But one of them was an older guy, and he was just like, he's like, "Oh, you're straight edge?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, do you know, like, what that is? Like, it's kind of like a lifetime commitment. And I was kind of like, yeah. And then I went home and I was like, holy shit, what did I get myself into?
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, they really mean this? But
they tell you the thing, if you stop being straight edge at any point in your future life, you will have to pay.
Yeah, you are a sellout and you are worthless to society.
Yeah, exactly. No foreign answer.
Yeah, exactly. So that's around the time that you were calling yourself that, and obviously, like,
you know, and I wasn't like, you know, and then also Strife came to town.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. Yes. I totally forgot that they went to Hawaii.
They went to Hawaii. Shelter came to town.
Yeah.
Civ came to town.
That's right.
And like it's weird because I always say like we didn't get a lot of bands. We got a lot of bands for Hawaii.
Right,
you know?
Of course, right.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking.
Yeah, exactly. But like, you know, when you like we got them once. Everywhere else got them like every tour.
Right, exactly. We got them like 3 times in a month.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm sure you had like a Strife on a nightly
definitely.
basis.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like I was so ecstatic because I saw Strife and Voodoo Glow Skulls, and I remember being up front. And Rick Rodney was looking for a person with a Sharpie so he could X up. And I had one in my pocket. And I was like, here, Rick, here. And I was like, oh my God, he used my Sharpie to X up. And I was like, holy shit. Like, looking back on that.
I like how ill-prepared the singer of Strife is.
I know.
Like, it's like...
When you're like, you do this every night, dude.
Yeah,
like, when you play, like, where's your big giant Sharpie?
Like drumsticks, guitar strings, Sharpies.
Sharpies. That should be a part of your gig bag or whatever you're bringing.
Or the writer. Like, you know, it's like, we need Sharpies, extra thick.
Totally. We don't need beer. Don't worry about that.
Don't worry about it. Take the money you would spend on beer and get a much more Sharpies.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it was great. It was cool being straight. It gives you an identity.
Of course.
In a time where you fucking need something.
Totally.
You know, and like, but it's weird because at the same time, I'm so way into pop punk.
Right.
Like you know, way into the cheery, happy, you know, poppy stuff. Vindictive, Screeching Weasel.
Yeah. Sounds like Chicago was a very large influence on your musical presence. Yeah.
It really is weird when I think about it. Like,
everything that came out from Chicago. I mean, you mentioned Braid earlier. It's like, obviously Chicago is so instrumental because they had such a diverse scene. From everything, and so I can understand whether it's like, you can kind of pick all that from there.
And also the fact that it's no like coincidence how creative of a city it is that like the amount of comics that are killing it right now that are all from Chicago. You got like, you know, or people that just like spent time there and came up there. As like, you know, you got Kumail Nanjiani, Pete Holmes, Matt Bronger, Kyle Kinane.
Totally.
Like you just got all these.
It isn't an accident that happens.
Yeah, Hannibal Buress. Like you got all these dudes that are just fucking destroying. T.J. Miller. Like all these guys.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's a great. I mean, like, and also here's another thing.
Right.
Deanna, my future wife.
Okay.
From Chicago. Oh.
Basically everything that is meaningful to you obviously has originated in Chicago.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't know. It's a High Fidelity, one of my favorite movies.
Right.
I never broke it down.
Yeah. There you go. We're peeling away layers.
Yeah, we really are. Yeah. Who needs that therapy? But even like, you know, like the Lookout Records stuff and Mutant Pop and, you know, Dillinger Force, Scared of Chaka, like like those like poppier things were all fucking. I was obsessed with that too.
Right.
And I was at the same time I was in these crazy hardcore bands. Sure.
And so did you were attempting to play music in the high school time?
Yeah. I was. Okay. That's like my most fruitful musical time. Was in high school, and the year after it, like I played drums. And so, you know, me and Donald like started like a band, and then it became like this like power violence band.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Nice. Power violence band with our friend Raph. It was like Donald on distorted bass, me on drums, fucking sweating my fat ass off trying to do blast beats or whatever.
30-second blast beats for sure.
Yeah. But, you know, because we were into Spaz, we were into Charles Bronson, we were into Locust. And,
we were Charles Bronson from Chicago.
Yeah. Los Crudos.
Los Crudos, yeah, exactly. All that.
MK Ultra.
Yeah. That's. No, sorry.
No, it's weird thinking about it.
Well, yeah, just so much good stuff came for the Victory Records, obviously, from there.
Yeah. You guys got any Jones Bronson? Who?
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
What was the actual first band? I always find the first band name to be the most, not even revealing, but just funny. Because everyone needs to be in a...
First, like, official band?
Sure, that you maybe, like, played your first show with.
Okay, the first band I played a show with.
Yeah.
It was a band I joined that was already existing.
Okay.
They were called God.
Okay.
God Our Dictator.
I love that.
And the logo was a crostica, which was a crucifix with the little edges to make it look like a swastika.
Right.
But it was all, like all the lyrics. So this guy, Aaron, who I went on to be in like another band with, completely different band.
Right.
But like real like fucking like, and all the lyrics were very much about like the hypocrisy. Like,
anti-establishment, everything.
Yeah. But like really, the guy was really smart. Like graduated high school early, like, but not like irritating politics. Like fucking oh, this guy knew about all those like secret American wars like a long time ago. And so that was that one. But then the bands that like I was like in developing, like it was called The New Originals, which is of course a Spinal Tap reference. Right. And that was like the Power Violence one.
Oh, okay.
At the same time, like just a sloppy punk band called the Year Outs. That was
none of those band names are terrible, Jonah.
No,
that's I know
good.
That's good.
I know.
That's my first band, Doom Society.
That's
totally ripped off from a Minneapolis punk band, Code 13.
Yeah,
totally. We were just like, that sounds badass. Yeah. And it was like, oh man, no, it's not.
Yeah, it's funny because God Our Dictator, even though I just joined that band, it was like it's still kind of a funny concept of a name.
Yeah.
But like the New Originals based off of a comedy movie. The Year Outs was based off of us making fun of our friend from another band who was always like, if Jason can't make it to practice, then fucking that's it, you're out. Right. You're out. And like, so our whole thing was like, it's like, no matter what you do, you're out.
You're out. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so it was the Year Outs. Y-E-R Outs, the Year Outs.
Got it. I like that.
After that, the band that started was like a straight edge hardcore, like crazy thrashy. We're into botch, but we're like, there was also like moments in songs that like was like a veil song. But like not an veil song, but just like a fucking part that was kind of like melodic, but like mainly thrashy and like, fucking technical and stuff like that.
Sure.
Everyone wore kung fu gis except for me.
So there was a theme. There was a theme behind it.
There
was a vision.
Yes, totally. But it was like it was fun. But it was like that was like all these guys are vegetarian, vegan mainly. All of them straight edge. I'm 16, going. I'm starting to like not take it straight edge so seriously. I enjoy being it, but like
it didn't. It wasn't like your core. Like it got you through a difficult time.
Yeah, right. And I find it great for my personal life. I didn't like proselytize. I didn't like preaching it. And a thing that started happening, like, we all got really into, like, The Last Poets.
Sure.
Do you remember The Last Poets? Like, those, like, it was the 70s, like,
Yep.
They had this one song, I don't know if this is okay, but like it's like the song was like one of their biggest hits was like they go like niggas, all niggas, and like it's like niggas are scared revolution, and like
right.
And like it's them like really commenting on like they have to motivate like their people so they can stop being called that, and they got like it was a very
right. They want to use this word to disarm this word.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that they're just repeating it, and like I read up on them and read up on the thing, and I found it like so like inspiring. But I'm also just obsessed with comedy. Obsessed with Mel Brooks.
Sure.
I love parody. We did a thing after one of our shows because they're always so serious. There's a lot of preaching, and I was like, and I would go up, get from behind the
here's me,
and then I would have a guy play bongos, and I just like I did a poem. I was like, why is it scared? Why is it scared of exercise?
That's awesome.
Drive through restaurants, drive through theaters. Why stop there?
It kept pushing it to the extreme.
Yeah, exactly. And then like that became like a thing. Like I started writing funny poems and doing it after these sets.
Amazing.
Like, it was about being like a dork or being like a fat kid that couldn't get girls and
people were receptive of that.
Yeah, people would like
that's interesting.
People started to expect it and like
really?
And like go what's it going to be this time?
Yeah.
And like they would all stick around. No one would walk away.
Yeah.
And, it was always so cool. I loved it, and I was making people laugh, and it was like just a blast. And
of course.
And it was I had
you were able to experience. That's interesting because I've always found like whatever punk bands, independent bands, the world of stand-up comedy. Like we can delve on this more.
Yeah.
Hearing about the way that lifestyle, it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
Touring.
Yep.
Playing to people that don't care, it blows my mind, like because I never put it in context until about 3 or 4 years ago. Obviously, when the podcasting world started to, people started to be like reveal themselves completely.
Yeah.
And I was like, I never really thought about it. Like fucking dude guy travels to Kenosha, Wisconsin, does 7 sets to mostly people that don't care. I'm like, that mimics my experience of playing in Montreal. to like 10 people that don't speak my language, and it's just like, and I'm like, wow, like was that?
You still do it, and you still keep going.
Of course, right? Because it's like obviously like how everybody says, it's like it's in you, like you just have to get it out.
Well, it's like Rob Schraub, the guy who was like Dan Harmon's writing partner for a long time, and directed Sarasota program. He put out a book of like all his like kind of sketches and drawings and all his like storyboards of all these things he's always done. And it's kind of like it's like a real sad title,
right?
And it's called "But I Can't Do Anything Else."
Right. This is it.
Yeah, and like it's like I love that as a thing for like guys like us that just like, what are you gonna do? Like, I can't do anything else.
Right.
It's I have to try and make this work.
Yeah.
For as long as I can.
Totally.
Yeah, I have a friend who's in a band right now, like pretty popular band.
Oh yes.
And he's the drummer, and he's kind of over it.
Yeah,
he's kind of over it, and he's been doing it for 10 years.
Oh, dude, well, I mean, the band's existed for a long time.
Yeah, and he's like, kind of just wants to start working on new things, and the fear in his head right now is, but can I do anything else? It's a scary thing where it's like, what happens when, like, I like say 15 years from now, and I just kind of ran out. I've exhausted my welcome in comedy.
Right.
I'm like, what skills?
Right. I mean, obviously everybody comes to those transition points, especially it's like the idea of like, going from high school to college, like you're in your band and like you're touring and you're trying to make it happen. And then like, that it's not like, didn't start as a business plan.
Yes.
Like you were like, all right, like we just happen to be able to tour and squeak by and like, that's fine.
Yeah.
But like, you're always going to have those transition points where it's like, I'm fucking terrified. Like, I just don't know. I don't know how this is going to work.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't sustainable.
Yeah.
I know that. Like, I know I can't be doing this at, 40 or whatever mythical age you put there.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever sounded old at the time.
Right. No, totally. You're uniquely experienced to have both worlds kind of in your back pocket. So, like, have you drawn that parallel and be like, oh, because I've played in these bands and have experienced any hard times with that you can, obviously, it can push you through?
Dude, actually, it's funny because the past year or so, it's been a lot in my thoughts about my punk rock background. And it sounds silly to people who don't get it. Like, I don't know, like, to say, like, I take a lot from punk rock.
Yeah.
Just the DIY ideas. And, about a year ago, I was, like, really down on myself and my career. And I was kind of like, am I just like a guy's sidekick? Am I like, I'm doing shows and I'm doing okay. I don't know like how to push myself to be like good as like these guys that I'm friends with,
Right.
Like, why do I keep doing it? It was like a lot of that going on in my head. But at the time I was driving home and I was listening to the Dickies. And I was listening to the Dickies album that came out like 2000 on Fat Records. Big Show and Puppet Stew. And I was like, I've been realizing, I was like, I haven't listened to that fucking thing constantly for like 10 years.
Right.
And nobody really knows about it.
No.
And then shortly after that, I had a conversation where someone asked me like, "Oh, who would be one of your dream guests to have on the Nerdist?" And I said, "Oh, I mean, it have to be Ian MacKaye, a guy who's influenced me in so many different ways throughout my life." They're like, "Oh, who is that?" I was like, "It's he was in Mind Threat and Fugazi." And they're like, "Oh, who are they?" And there's nothing wrong with not knowing that.
No, not at all.
There's like it's like sometimes I'll tell somebody that story and they'll be like, "What? How can you?"
Yeah,
like,
no, you can't. Yeah, you can't immediately go on the defensive where it's just like, how come you don't know this subset of a subculture?
Yeah, exactly. And this person is like, I think is funny and they're really nice,
right.
like successful, and like I was like, oh, it's just they're just really good bands, really good bands that mean a lot to a lot of people,
right? Like
it completely changed people's lives, and you have no idea who they are,
totally,
and that's okay. And then that made me think, like, you know what? If I equated what I'm doing right now to like if I was just like a punk band,
right?
If I was not just me and I was like a punk band and I was doing what I'm doing,
right?
I'd feel like I'd be a really fucking successful punk band.
Sure.
Like if I were to equate the success I'm having
currently,
be it however like small it is,
sure.
And then I realized like, why can't I just enjoy? Like it's like punk rock has helped me keep things in perspective,
right?
Where I wasn't doing any of those bands to do anything,
right? Of course.
And I like. And you get caught up because of comedy is so intertwined, and success of it is based solely on being known and having money and being
out
on
there.
TV.
Yeah, totally.
And like I realized that's not what I set out for. That's not the kind of guy I am.
Right.
I'm punk.
Right.
And I don't mean to like
No. Well, because I think it's funny because like hearing the way that you describe it, it's like because obviously punk has been so disarmed where it's like it's not it's a novelty and like that's completely understandable. It's fine.
Sure.
Because I mean that's what happens to a music scene once it exists for a long time. It's like folk, the same sort of thing.
Same thing.
But the importance that I always put into it is just the do-it-yourself nature, where it's just like The idea of being like, all right, I don't know how to do something. I would like to achieve a goal. I'm going to learn how to do whatever this is.
Yes.
And like, I don't think that that's inherent in a lot of other cultures. And when I say cultures, I mean like, obviously it's in the comedy world. Like that exists, like the DIY nature.
Yes, and that's largely in part thanks to the internet in general.
Totally.
And by that I mean podcasts.
Yep.
And video.
Totally.
Like it's like especially video. Like it's like kids have just like let's just make videos.
Of course.
And then the videos get millions of hits, and now those kids have a career.
Totally. Yeah. So it's just like I think it's like that DIY nature when it gets ingrained in you at such an early age. When you are in high school, you carry that with you no matter where you go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I just think it's like so many people, without sounding like a dick, it's like I feel sorry for some people that don't have like, and I don't want to sound like I said like a dick or egotistical, but it's just like, man, like having that experience, like it's so without sounding cliche about it, it's obviously special. Like, even though it is more mainstream now, and like every kid is in a band, and you can go to Guitar Center, and like it's easy to create music now. But you wonder how special it is for a person. Like, are they going to carry it on through the rest of their life, or is it just going to be like something to do for like 2 years?
Exactly. And I've had moving out here, I had a lot of my friends in bands,
right?
And I was doing comedy and working part-time jobs while they were being able to be in bands full-time.
Sure.
And now it's like for a lot of those guys, like it's completely switched. We're there and they have to have full-time
in between tours they're working.
Yeah, exactly. And like that's the thing. Like if I was a band, I'd be doing pretty good.
Right.
Like it's like I'm sustaining off of the art form that I chose.
Right.
Art form.
Yeah, I know. The art form that I chose.
I know,
right.
The fart form.
Right. The palette in which I choose to create.
Yeah. But like it's like and there was this great Southern California band that I was friends with called the Rolling Blackouts.
Okay, yeah.
And they band out of the South Bay. I saw their first show at a house in San Pedro. Mm-hmm. It was 2001, 3rd of July.
Wow,
it was
impressive memory.
Yeah, well, it's just because like it was like I don't know why I don't really remember shit like that, but like. Because I remember that's like I made friends with them that night, and that, like they're still my friends to this day. Mm-hmm. Also, like I was just about to move out here.
Got it.
And like also Toys That Kill played, and the Blacks played. They were like this awesome fucking like blues metal band from like there was but yeah, it was a crazy night. I saw them, I was like, oh my god, these guys are great. And then I just like fucking trudged, and then they fucking like got a record deal on Warner Brothers,
right?
Or Record Collection, which was the subsidiary,
right?
And then they got LA Weekly's best rock band in Los Angeles. Like like, and then it just didn't
continue to move.
It didn't continue to move, and it affected them. The fact that like the attention's going away,
right?
And like I was like, well, I remember like having conversations like, but remember, you just keep on pushing forward, and they did for a while. To their credit, they really did. But then like some guys are like, hey, I want to get married. I'm gonna
life is happening.
I'm gonna go full time at Whole Foods. There's other bands that just fucking keep going.
Yeah.
And and just work the jobs, and like it's like Toys That Kill, XFYP. Like those guys are still
doing it.
Still doing it.
Yep.
I remember when it was like when they started Toys That Kill, they're like it's like I don't know, they're already kind of in their 30s.
Right.
FYP
they're long in the tooth. Right.
Yeah, exactly. But like now, like Toys That Kill have been around longer than FYP.
Totally.
And it's incredible.
Yeah. They're just able. I mean, obviously now, like the way the bands can exist in a world where they play like 2 shows a year, like or they do select events. Like I mean, I saw Hot Water Music last night, and it was like,
oh, how was it?
It was great.
Yeah.
They're just a machine.
I did not like that new album.
No, it's okay. I mean, it's one of those things where it's just like people like you and I who existed parallel to Hot Water Music for almost their entire career. It's like, I've kind of heard this record before.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, but just like, okay.
Yeah.
Hot Water, like they don't need to be out 300 days of the year.
No.
They're out maybe 2 months, and like they're fine with that. It's like the mile markers of what you define as success, like move throughout your life. But you just, like you said, you just have to be comfortable with scaling back expectations and still be like, all right, this is my comfort level.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah, it's about just like kind of believing in the process. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Think about all the artists, musicians, actors, people we'll never know.
Right.
Who have made a nice living.
Right.
Or just an okay living off of doing what they exactly want to do. Right. That in itself is success.
Totally.
That's a successful life and career.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with fame. It has nothing to do with how many fucking Twitter followers you have.
Right.
By the way, at Jonah Ray is my...
right, yeah. No, it's perfect. It doesn't matter, but please follow Jonah.
Please. I am verified.
Right, yes.
But... It's, and this is, it's funny talking about this because, like, this is all just what's in my head a lot the past year.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's, because I started comedy right after I turned 20.
Right.
And I turned 30 in August.
Right.
And so that's 10 years of doing comedy. When I started and I thought 10 years into comedy, I was like, well, I'd be a fucking superstar.
Right. Yeah, obviously. Like, look at Steve Martin.
Yeah.
It's like, right.
Exactly.
That's where
I
I'm
put
at.
in my time if I'm at 10 years. 10 years, I'll be fucking 80 somehow.
Yeah. I'll be able to sell it 5 nights at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
It's obviously fine.
And then, because also when you start in comedy too, that's another thing. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to Joe Sib about this on
in your
today's
podcast,
episode of Jonah Radio. You're doing this stuff, and then like there's guys you're like, oh, look at that guy, and then fucking. I was doing open mics with BJ Novak.
Yeah.
And he within 2 years he had already been on Punk'd, and now he was on The Office. It was just like, my god,
right?
Yeah, and then like all these other writing jobs, and then like you're just eyes on your own paper. Is it going to affect you? Do it like you just have to do what you're going to do anyway,
right?
You know, being in bands helped me realize like I'm still getting to do that essentially.
Right.
All the stuff I was doing before, growing up, being in bands and being in a scene. I still get to live that life.
Right.
I still get to kind of go back and forth. Like I'm still friends with guys in bands. And,
yeah.
You know, like.
Yeah, it's not like you've shut off that part of your life. To me, that's what I always feel like the obligatory term of like sellout is a person who it's like, you know, something that meant something so much to them. They look at it in a non-fun manner. Like they're just like, you know, they talk down on it. They're just like, oh yeah, that's something I did as a teenager. And it's just like...
Yeah, it's very important to your developmental process.
Right,
like, you know,
right.
how dare you, like, you know, shit on a thing like...
Right, and just like look at it like a little kid thing where it's just like, oh, like, dude, I'm into Arcade Fire now. Like that whole concept of like, I never was this. It's like, no, you weren't fucking cool from the womb. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You're gonna make quote-unquote bad musical decisions on that's part of who you are and where you're at now.
Exactly. I never really stopped listening to any music. Like, it's like, you know, like when you walked in, I was listening to Ask Factor 4.
Right.
And we had the conversation. It's like, why did I buy this? When am I going to pop it on?
Yeah.
Clearly I popped it on.
Of course.
And, you know...
It needs to have a place in your collection.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And, you know, that's a fun thing, too, just like to divert from what we were talking about earlier. Because I'm record shopping now, like I'll like take an Instagram of my record haul. I think that's the most hipster thing I've ever said in my life.
Oh, it's incredible. Yeah.
So I'll Instagram my record haul.
Of course. Hey, everybody, see my taste. This is what I'm doing currently.
Well, I'm sipping on Intelligentsia coffee. But like, you know, I take a picture of it, and it's just what's fun is seeing the people that follow me that I don't know. So like clearly they're fans or whatever.
Right.
But seeing like the different types of people going like Ask Factor 4, holy shit, I saw them, and then like someone going like Seeing Cake was like fucking help me through college. Like it's, you know, like just these different types of people reacting to this stuff, and I miss it. I go to this, oh god, everything I say, I'm going to call it a coffee shop, but it's not because it's a fucking juice bar.
Right.
But it's in Silver Lake right over there.
Sure.
And it's great because I'm trying to lose weight. But like I go and I walked in, and they're playing Dillinger 4.
Yeah.
And if I can just hippie juice store.
Right.
And they're playing Dillinger 4. There's a drink. One of the juices called the Alkaline Trio. Right. Because, you know, it's got, like, carrots and beets. It's just, like, you know, the way they have it. And then, like, I see a sticker on the wall. It's a fucking Milo Descendant sticker.
Right.
And then I just kind of see this, like, kid behind, like, a blonde kid, unshaven, kind of long hair. Kind of ponytail. I was like, who's
doing this?
Who is this? Why is this? And, like, I was like, is it a punk guy that owns this place? He's like, no. This guy Baba G owns the place, but, you know, I kind of help him run it. So this is my music. And I was like, okay, because it's not too often that you walk into a place and Dillinger 4 is playing, let alone a hippie juice place.
Right.
In fucking Silver Lake.
Right, you're like, we've hit the trifecta.
Yeah, exactly. And then we started like talking, and I was like, yeah, one of my favorite bands. He's like, I never got to see him. I said, you're not missing that much.
Right.
I love Dillinger 4.
Right.
I love Dillinger, one of my favorite bands of all time.
Yeah.
Maybe if I could see him not in the middle of a drunken tour.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe if I can see him at a one-nighter.
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's true. Yeah, I think I only saw them once. I saw them in Corona at the Showcase Theater, and they were great. But I think it was just because it was a very short tour, and because they were playing, I think, more all ages venues than bars. It was okay.
It was like, yeah, exactly.
Because that was kind of at the height of like when they signed to Hopeless and Versus God. So it's like, you know, they were more quote unquote professional at the time.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, talk about guys that just fucking do it.
Totally.
They'll fucking like own a amazing bar venue.
Totally.
They're like the
best. Mecca. Like we need to play the Triple Rock.
That
exactly. Has to happen.
Yeah. But like, you know, I go in and I talk to this kid who's in a band, Vanaprosta, I think they're called.
Okay.
But like we're just talking about music. He's like, oh, you know, but my all-time favorite band is like the Weaker Thans. I was like, The Weaker Thans mean more to me than fucking Bob Dylan.
Sure. Yeah. John K. Samson knows what's up.
Exactly. Yeah. I almost basically just ripped off. I was like, this is Bob Dylan to me.
Right. That's so good. This is my Bob Dylan.
Yeah, exactly. That's fucking just ripping off D. Boone lyrics.
Right. So do you? Because I'm still trying to get a sense. Like, I mean, obviously, like you mentioned, like Kyle Kinane. Like, there are people that have a history in the comedy world that obviously have kind of come from that punk scene.
Yeah. Kyle Kinane is like
And a bit. I mean, do you get a sense? Like, do you trip across a lot of people that obviously have that sort of background? Or is it more like just they've been a comedy nerd?
You know what? When I started, I was convinced it was going to be a bunch of guys just like me, same background.
Yeah.
And it was not the case. You know, it wasn't the case at all. Like, because when you're like comedy. And then you hear about John Belushi having Fear on SNL, like you're like, they've been.
There's a connection, right.
And it was not the case. I really did not.
Yeah.
Zach Galifianakis used to come to the record store I worked at, and he would see me at comedy shows, so he would always talk to me, and like he kind of he was like the first comic I met that knew a lot about music.
Sure.
But as far as like a punk rock background,
I
can consider like a contemporary.
Sure.
Kyle Kinane.
Yeah.
Is kind of it.
I know, and I
expected so many. But you know what? Sorry. I can't believe I spaced on. I had him on the podcast.
Sure.
John Ross Bowie, who's this incredible improviser and actor. He plays like Kripke or whatever on Big Bang Theory.
Oh, okay.
He was in a New York pop punk band called Egghead.
Oh, okay.
They put out a CD on Mutant Pop Records.
Yeah.
They put out a split with Kung Fu Monkeys.
Okay, yeah.
If you want to hear the highest male vocals,
sure.
Kung Fu Monkeys.
Listen to that.
Yeah. Don't listen to that. If I can, it would have been funnier if I could have.
It would have been funnier if I could have nailed the reference. It's exactly. Okay. This isn't a test.
Coheed and Cambria.
Oh, there you go.
Or fucking Mars Volta. But anyway.
Yeah.
But and this guy fucking hardcore punk rock background.
Sure.
Fucking you grew up in New York, so fucking CBGB's.
Yeah. ABC No Rio.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And now he's on fucking Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. To me, it's like obviously it's like anybody that receives like a monicum of success, like on that level. That's like you look at Fred Armisen, where you're just like
Fred Armisen, yeah.
Like nothing could make me more stoked, obviously for his creative output, but then just his own context, where it's just like where he comes from, and you're just like, obviously it's like you see all the sketches that he's on SNL in Portlandia, where it's just like the crisis of conformity.
I have that 7-inch.
Totally, me too.
Yeah.
And it's just like you watch that, and you're just like. Oh, like you just feel like I'm at home. Like I'm just
it felt so good to see that on TV, and for that guy to bring it for of course it has to be Fred Armisen.
Yeah.
Like that guy brought it out for guys like us.
Totally.
And crazy thing about that sketch though, the Crisis of Conformity sketch.
Right.
I can't remember what it's called, like maybe Wedding Band. Look up Fred Armisen
like
punk Wedding Band. It's up online.
Yep.
The most punk moment actually comes from Ashton Kutcher. Mm-hmm. Who, when he realizes that Dave Grohl's mic isn't on for Dave Grohl's vocal part, just fucking grabs his mic and fucking throws it in his face.
Totally.
Fucking lets him finish it out. Like I was like, holy shit! Like, and that was cool.
Just harness that moment.
Yeah, exactly.
No, for sure. And I just, it's like even though obviously I didn't know you up until like a week ago, as far as like a personal connection, where it was like I just see that and it's just like like go.